All right, we are live, folks. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Left Wing. We are joined by an incredible host, our guest, by Gigi. Gigi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're great. We feel honored to have you on. We got an exciting show, don't we, John?
We have a very exciting show with not one but two segments on Israel, so that should be always a tasty treat. I don't remember the last week we didn't have a news story on them. It's been a while, but that's because it's the biggest thing happening right now. And everything is even kind of tangentially related. We'll also be talking about Hillary Clinton's comments she made on Fallon, which are, not necessarily about Israel, but definitely related. And we'll also be talking the one that doesn't involve Israel at all. We'll be talking about Florida and whether or not it's worth Biden campaigning there after what happened with their Supreme Court and the abortion ban that is going through the state that could be the most restrictive in the country. So we will be discussing that first. We can just jump right into it.
Let's go. Yeah. What's up with this Florida thing? Yeah.
All right. So what's happening in Florida? The reason that there's two things to talk about here. There's the abortion ruling itself, which was made on Monday. So Florida's highest court cleared the way essentially for an abortion ban that could take effect on May 1st, which would be a 6-week abortion ban. I believe the article I'm looking at doesn't actually say that number, and I want to check. But the bigger story here is that after that happened, a memo was released by Biden's campaign manager, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, saying that Florida is now a winnable state. So there has been some speculation within the DNC, within Democratic circles, that should Biden put any resources towards winning Florida, is it possible? Obama did win in 2012. It wasn't that long ago that Florida was a winnable state for Democrats. Obviously, with Trump kind of making it his second home, that changes the calculus a little bit. But what we have seen in many, many, many states is when abortion is on the ballot, it's a really, really bad news day for Republicans. So I don't know. I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are, and then I'll tell you what I think. But Gigi, I'd love to hear from you first.
So I think that I don't think it looks good, but that's just me. I think that for the past, since 2016, 2020, those have all been red. So I'm wondering if, because it's Trump, if that's going to be a problem for Biden attempting to win Florida over. I don't know. I really, with the way Biden's campaign has gone already, I don't have a lot of hope for Biden flipping much of anything, to be honest. But I mean, it's really so up in the air too, where maybe it could. I'm curious to see what tactics he would implement in going about that. What kinds of issues he would be leaning on or whatever in order to win Florida. So that's kind of my take. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're correct that Biden himself is not going to flip Florida or any district or state for that matter. I don't think that it's contingent upon him at all. But when I first heard this, actually, I think yesterday when John, you brought it, the first time I heard of it, although they've been talking about it for months now, ever since there was a district that went for Trump by 11 points. And there was a special election 2 months ago that a Democrat won a solid red district. And they've been talking about it ever since then. And my first thought, was like, oh, well, Florida used to be a toss-up state. And then right around the time Trump came along, and then, you have more and more older people moving there. And, they're big Trump supporters, that the state has become the DeSantis. This becomes more and more red as time's gone on. So I kind of wrote it off as a swing state. But You know what? I would have guessed Florida would flip blue before Georgia did, and Georgia went blue. So, like the fact that Georgia went blue does kind of like, okay, all right, if that can happen, then Florida certainly can. But as to what you were saying, Gigi, is that you don't think Biden can move the needle. I agree, but I think it's going to be based on factors completely outside of Biden, mainly abortion is like what John mentioned earlier, and in that. One of the reasons I think that Biden is in a really good, well, one of a couple reasons I think Biden's in a good position is that people will come out to support abortion initiatives, and the Democrats are, quite intelligently putting an abortion initiative on the ballot for this year's election in Florida. People will come out to support that, and the people who we've seen, over the last couple of years that. Whenever abortion's put on the ballot, it pretty much always wins. And the people who do vote for that are generally going to vote for Democrats. Like people aren't as politically, astute or as, perceptive as we like them to think they would be. They're just going to vote blue down the line. And that's really going to help Biden. Now, I don't know if it's going to be enough to actually win Florida. And I would, if I were running the campaign, I wouldn't put a whole lot of money into this because there's other states that are, certainly more winnable that I would put some funds into. But I mean, the fact that you have abortion on the ballot is going to help Biden a whole lot. And what we joke about it all the time. After 2020, a lot of old Republicans died because they didn't get vaccinated, and so there's going to be fewer and fewer of them voting. So. It's possible. Like, I hadn't thought about it until John mentioned it, but it's certainly a possibility. I hesitate to call it a toss up. I still think I would lean red with Florida, but if he wins Florida, it's game over. Like Trump has no shot if that happens. But yeah, what do you think, John?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there is an outside chance that it could happen, but anecdotally, I've been to Florida many times. It's not gonna flip to Biden. That I've never been in there's two places that I've been where I'm scared to just be a Democrat, let alone speak my mind on things. And that was Ocean City, Maryland, which is a disgusting amount of Trump flags. And then just Florida, it's so, and I live in Pennsylvania where there's plenty of areas that are very pro-Trump. Florida is just it's in the air, it's in the water that you drink. I don't think that he could possibly lose that state unless something major happened. What I think would maybe happen is that you see it go red for the president and blue for everything else because of the abortion ban. I just don't think Trump personally would ever lose Florida. But it does kind of, the fact that we're even speculating about it because of the abortion ban is really just speaking to the massive problem that Republicans are going to have in 2024, because it is 2024 in November, because it's such a stupid issue. I can't believe they actually are pushing this agenda on state levels because they're just going to decimate themselves. I don't know why they would put it up to a ballot initiative and be like, you know what? I'm going to tell voters to come to the polls to defend abortion. It makes absolutely no sense why Republicans they must have, both sides in this case seem to have a massive ego that is just not acknowledging reality. Because if Biden thinks he can win Florida, that's a move that you make when you're up by 10 points and you just want to go to the jugular, not when it's a competitive race. And then on the Republican side, what are they thinking putting this as a ballot initiative? If you want to ban abortion, just do it the classic authoritarian way. I know you guys can do that. Why would you make it up to the people and give Democrats the easiest get out the vote campaign that you could have, if I'm a Democrat in Florida, I'm actually campaigning for this to be a ballot initiative. I want this to be a ballot initiative because why not? You're going to win it probably.
Yeah, I saw a commercial for Biden that I meant to clip to play here, but Biden has already cut a commercial for Florida and the abortion thing. And I mean, everything he says is true, and it resonates with your average person saying that, listen, well, it's funny. He said that, the Republicans don't trust women to make the decisions about their own bodies. I trust women. I think that we should give them that autonomy. And my administration is running on the campaign to federally codify Roe v. Wade, which, okay, you're not. No, you're not. Like that. That's not going to happen. No. Yeah, it's like you need. It's like you would need 60 votes in the Senate, which you're not going to get. Yeah, it's not going to happen. And even if you had 60 votes, there's going to be one or two conservative Democrats that aren't going to support it either. And so that was, I mean, the policy wonk in me was annoyed by that. But, to your average person watching it, having a party saying, like Ron DeSantis out there saying, 6-week abortion bans, which is essentially an absolute abortion ban. Like, everyone knows this, that thinks about it for more than 2 seconds. And then the Democrats were like, well, hey, how about we not do that? And I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Like, where do we see it? Kentucky, Kansas, Montana, I think. Like fire engine red states are still rejecting this crazy abortion ban. And it's funny. It's funny that that's the only thing keeping Biden afloat. Honestly, it really, well, that's not the only thing. Is the abortion stuff and the fact that he's running against Trump. Like, if it weren't for those things, Biden would be cratering. But the fact that, like, the Republicans have just made it very clear that, we want Handmaid's Tale type shit here. We don't want women to have any control over their bodies at all. You're incubators, you're just machines to create children. And then you have stories of, like, 10-year-olds getting raped and pregnant, and Republicans are out on TV saying, well, they should have the baby. That is bonkers. That scares the shit out of people. And it's funny, I saw was it The Good Liars? I can't remember who I saw, but they were going around to Republicans and asking them about these hypotheticals, and they're like, that does seem a little bit extreme. And so, like, a lot of Republicans even think that the no abortion at any time is nonsense, and it's going to hurt them, especially when Trump is, like, cutting commercials saying, I'm the one who got all those justices nominated. I'm the one who got Roe v. Wade overturned. It's they're shooting themselves in the foot. It's you love to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the more crazy it gets with that, the the easier it can be for Democrat to just swing in and be like, no, let's maybe not do that. And so Biden is Biden, and he still can, there's still leverage for him due to this issue. And I'm wondering about other issues too, like if there's abortion, but there's also, like, how he's handling other things like Gaza, and like I don't know. I think that it would be interesting to see how Florida responds to that. I know that like in previous elections, like 2008, 2012, they were Democrat then. So it's like really like two cycles Democrat, then 2 cycles red, then so they've had a history of being like, sort of back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, I think it's northern Florida that's more conservative, and then the southern is like more, liberal, Democrat, whatever.
The fun part of Florida, like Miami.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the Keys and Orlando and Miami.
Florida's straight up like divided, it seems. And so, I mean, the 80s and 90s were really good for red, but of course that's long gone now, so I'm wondering, like, if it's, I don't know. We'll have to see.
It's a weird state because you have such weird demographics in that you have a high immigrant, you have an extremely high elderly population, you have an extremely high immigrant population, but a lot of those immigrants are also Cubans who are relatively more conservative than pretty much every other Hispanic immigrant group. So, like, it's a very weird mix that is what makes Florida be purple. I just think at the end of the day that the get out the vote is too strong with Trump. Even if it's 50-50 proportionally in the population, if everyone voted, that's what it would be. I think Trump would still win because his campaign is just strong in Florida. Like it's part, as I said, it's part of the culture there. And there'd have to be a significant get out the vote campaign from Democrats. But again, this is the one thing that they could actually coalesce around and like make that happen. Like the silent women in the Republican households that have showed up in every other state might end up sinking them again in Florida. But I'll believe it when I see it, TJ.
I think that like what you guys talking about with the oscillating nature of political climate for Florida, it's a lot to do with demographics, because a lot of older people are moving into Florida, and old people are they're closer to shuffling off this mortal coil, and when they start dying off, then the demographics shift again. And the Cuban thing is funny too, because yes, like Latino, the Latino population pretty much, like I checked the stats on this a while ago, consistently votes about 65% blue, like for the last 25 years or so. And but the one exception are the Cuban immigrants, and that's basically because the Cuban immigrants are they're the people you talk to is like, well, Castro, stole my family's slaves. They took away my grandfather's plantation. So yeah, they're going to be pretty conservative, but that's going to be a different thing. I said we had a comment here. Biden is losing popularity because of the Gaza crisis. He's just as bad as Trump at this point. He can be pro-choice all day, every day, but it doesn't matter if he's selling weapons. Casey. So I would say he's just as bad as Trump when it comes to Gaza, but for everything else, I mean, I think that's demonstrably false. But it's we'll get into this later, I think. But the people, like, there's a lot of single issue voters out there, and for however we can take it, there are more single issue abortion voters than there are single issue Gaza voters. Like exponentially.
There's more single issue abortion voters than there are any single issue voter. Like I don't think there's anything else.
Guns might be a bigger one.
Maybe guns. Yeah. Well, but that's not really a swing. Like they all. But anyone whose guns is important to them, it's only one way. Like only the pro-gun people are single issue voters more than pro-life people. But like the anti-gun people, I don't think are single issue voters in the same way. Does that make sense?
So I saw a chart in 2017, and it was talking about like what predictors on how you voted. And so like if you were married, you were more likely to vote for a Republican. If you were a college student, you're more likely to vote for a Democrat. The strongest correlation was gun ownership, like out of all of them. Like if you owned a gun, that was the strongest correlation that you would vote for a Republican. So it's like that's why I brought that up, because it's odd too, but I mean, I guess not.
I think it's a little like it works both ways. Like if you own a gun, you're more likely to vote Republican, but also if you're a Republican, you're more likely to own a gun. I'm not sure what the causation is there, but it's just a pretty good through line.
Yeah. What about his promise to not do pipelines? I'm not sure what there's to do with this topic. I mean, yeah, Biden.
I think she's just kind of shitting on
That's
Biden,
a really
which is totally
common
fine.
argument is like the Russian pipeline. Like I hear that all the time, right?
Well,
Like,
I'm not so sure she's referring to the Russian pipeline. I think she's probably referring to the oil drilling.
Yeah, I think she's referring to like our pipelines that we built. And yeah, Biden is bad on climate change. He's awful. It's like it's true.
Which he doesn't get. Like it's incredible how much like people deny that, by the way. Like it's incredible. We're like, oh, he made the biggest infrastructure, like green infrastructure investment ever. It's like, yeah, but if you look at what climate scientists say about it, they're like, nah, it's not good enough.
No.
They're very unanimous about this. This isn't something that's like up for debate, and it's shocking to see that Democrats do exactly what Republicans do on the issue and just deny the science and reality.
When back when I was like first being a guest on this show, I remember us doing a segment about this very issue and how there's very little daylight when it comes between the Republicans and the Democrats when it comes to climate change stuff. Like it's like almost none at all. And it's an unfortunate issue because like when you talk about it, it doesn't get a ton of engagement. Like it's not a sexy headline or anything. And people, they're not thinking 50 years in advance. They're like, okay, well, I'll probably be fine tomorrow. And it's so sad because it's like this is Thanos shit. Like it's inevitable. Like we're gonna keep warming the planet. I don't see a way that it's going to stop. I wish it could, but when our politicians are owned by corporations, and some of the biggest ones are energy corps. Yeah, they're going to keep pushing this stuff to ruin the climate. So yeah, it's unfortunate, true.
Yeah, and to tie it back to Florida, what state's going to be impacted the most by climate change? It's going to be Florida.
Yeah,
and it is actually. I think that might be one of the reasons why Republicans have attacked it so much, because it's going to be the state that everyone looks at is like, oh, the climate catastrophe is killing Florida. And they just need to brainwash everyone in the meantime. But anyway, if you guys, I want to hear what people in the comments have to say. So if you think that Democrats have a chance of taking Florida in November, let me know, because I think Democrats do. I just don't think Joe Biden does. But let us know if you agree in the comments. We will keep talking about Israel and Joe Biden right after this. Cool.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I want to pull up Casey's comment. To be honest, Thanos had a great idea. Look, Thanos, it's not that Thanos was right, but it wasn't that he was totally wrong either. That's one of the things too. It's like you look around, like, yeah, a lot of these people shouldn't be here. But
well, the thing with Thanos is that it's just dumb on so many. Like it's like they tried to make a villain's argument sort of make sense. And I give credit to like the people who designed the character and who was the actor?
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, like he did a great job making it feel sincere, but it really just falls apart when you're like, you have an infinite power gauntlet, and you could have just doubled the resources instead of having the population. And also, the population is just going to grow again. Why'd you destroy the gauntlet? Like that, like you're going to end up in the same problem, and now there's no gauntlet. Like, what did you do?
What I thought was that so Thanos's plan. Well, once again, we're doing Marvel.
Oh yeah. I hope you know we randomly go into movies. We had a whole thing on Hereditary yesterday.
Yeah. But, so Thanos said, "Okay, I'm going to use the Infinity Gauntlet to destroy all life, or half of all life. Well, that includes like plants and shit, So you're not really changing much. Like
he snapped Groot. Like you could have made it, but he snapped Groot. Like it's right there and there, but not half the plant life on Earth died. It's very very
that
weird.
kind of destroys. You're literally right back where you started. You have the exact same ratio between resources. I guess minerals aren't affected by it, but that's kind of odd. Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. I don't know.
Gigi, any strong feelings on Thanos?
I don't know Marvel like that. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You can't tell from TJ's screen right now, but he's got the symbiote behind him. He's got another Spider-Man thing behind him. Actually, it's not a Doom mask, but it looks like a Doom mask.
That's true. Making more resources would have been the better, but I can see. Yeah, I know. It had to. The funny thing is, so I'm not like super comic book nerd. I found this out later, but in the comics, Thanos, his plan isn't to cut all life in half. His plan is to kill everything, because Thanos is so like in Greek, and in the Greek mythology, I think there's a god named Thanatos or something like that, and he's the god of death. And so like a thanatocracy would be a rule by the dead, and that's what they named him after. And he's in love with like the Grim Reaper, the personification of Lady Death, and so he has this, major crush on her. He's loved her his whole life, and he wants to kill everything in the universe to make her happy. That's his goal there. And so They diverge from that in the movies because like that's honestly a little more boring if you ask me.
Oh, I disagree. I think that story is so much better.
That's amazing, actually.
Yeah, like this character, he's literally in love with death. You can make that compelling. You can make that's more relatable, I think, than just like, yeah, I want to destroy half the universe. Like, I'm in love with a crazy chick. That's very relatable.
So I think that they could have converged because like being in love with death is a cool part.
Yeah.
But I'm evil McBad guy. I want to kill everything in existence. That's kind of boring, but it's not quite as interesting as half the population for a certain goal. But yeah, I don't know. It's
I see what Casey did there. She said, "Oh snap!" I don't even know if she realized that.
Oh snap! Very good.
But speaking of wanting to kill everything, our next topic is Israel.
I was just going to say.
Professional. John is a professional. That was a good segue.
So this week, I think that we have hit a real watershed moment in at least the U.S. relationship with the Netanyahu regime in Israel. And it's interesting to see how it has happened. So this week, unless you've been living under a rock, if you follow this show, I'm sure you're aware of this, but Israel struck a WKC, WCK, a World Central Kitchen convoy in Gaza and killed 7 aid workers. Now, and when I say they struck it, I don't mean that like a bomb exploded in the area and accidentally hit this convoy. This convoy was targeted with precision munitions multiple times to the point where people were like switching cars and it was still getting hit. And the essentially it has just everyone is now against it. Like, it's really weird how quickly this has turned the tides. Like, of all of the aid workers that have been killed, all of the teachers, all of the volunteers, all of the journalists that have been killed over the last several months haven't moved the needle enough, but this one did. And I think a lot of it is because of the guy that ran the World Central Kitchen, whose name is completely not on my screen right now, and it really should be, but he's a chef in DC, and it will totally come through my screen here. Do you guys remember the name, TJ? Do you remember
I don't remember his name, no.
But he's a chef, a Michelin star chef in Washington, DC. So he's very well connected in political circles, and I think that is what and he has been relatively pro-Israel. And when these guys, Israel killed his guys, he was like, guys, this no, that's not it. I'll find the name. But he was essentially like, no, this is like, they targeted our convoy. Like, this is obviously so clearly wrong. And you have the pictures of just the convoy truck with a hole in the roof. Like, this could not have been accidental. It's like straight through the logo, clearly marking it as humanitarian vehicle. And I guess it's just so close to home in Washington, D.C., that like it is turning politicians that otherwise wouldn't have been turned. But Gigi, what did you think when you read this story? Do you feel like this is actually a needle mover that's going to affect change? What are your thoughts?
I think that it will bring much more attention to Netanyahu's craziness in all of his decision making. The name is, I'm looking it up right now, it's Chef Jose Andres, is that right?
That's it. Yep.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is shedding light toward like how much this has been going on already, because at least 196 humanitarian workers have been killed since October. So of course I think that this at least puts a name and a face to these people who are being killed, and I think that it will be beneficial to a ceasefire or something like that, like to at least have someone to connect these killings to. And I do think so. I think that it will help at least. Of course, it's horrible that this is this is what it takes in order to get people's attention. And the fact that, so much of this has been going just sort of like no one really cares. No one really like looks into this, Yeah, I do think that it will be helpful.
Yeah, I was trying to find the tweet that Biden made about this, and I just had it in front of me. But he says that I am outraged and heartbroken by the deaths of 7 humanitarian workers from World Central Kitchen, including 1 American in Gaza yesterday. Incidents like yesterday simply should not happen. And then he provides full statement, which I'll address a little bit. But the first thing I want to mention is this this thing that we see a lot when it comes to like you'll see this with police shootings where 14-year-old black child killed in officer involved shooting, and not saying who killed them. It's like, oh, these people died around the vicinity of Israel and shit like that. That's always pretty annoying. And also, this is something that gets my attention, and I think KC, what did she say here? I think it kind of relates. Yeah, most white people don't tend to get outraged when POC are harmed, but when it's charities of white people. Yeah, so I would.
It is incredible how stark the contrast is with that one on this.
Well, the corollary I want to add to that is it's not just on racial or ethnic lines; it's on nationality lines. Because how many times have you seen a news story where it's like, earthquake strikes in Indonesia and 80 people killed, including 3 Americans. And you're like, oh my God, 3 Americans died. And you care about it now. Like, you care about it a lot more than if it would have been 3 foreigners that you wouldn't know. And so for some reason that works. And it's kind of fucked up that we don't value human life equally. We value lives that happen to be born or naturalized within the imaginary lines that we, were born and naturalized in. It's kind of crazy. And Biden said something here where he says Israel has to do better to try to protect these aid workers, because I didn't know this until this happened, but I forget the number of aid workers that have been killed in this conflict, the euphemism, this conflict that's going on. But it's disproportionately higher than any conflict that's happened in recent history. And so it's not that Israel isn't protecting these folks. Israel is killing these folks. And Israel is, making it very clear that they don't want aid going into Gaza. They will set up blockades, like Israeli civilians set up blockades to stop food from going into Gaza, or, any type of humanitarian aid whatsoever. And so it's like, no, Israel isn't just like, oh, whoopsie, this is a passive mistake we had where, someone had to die. I can't prove that was a targeted strike, even though it looks exactly like a targeted strike. I can't prove that, but it would, fall in line with everything Israel has done so far, in that, we want to stop this aid. You remember, how many times does this have to happen? Like, remember the story where they did a missile strike on 2 ambulances that had like the Red Cross on them. And then you had just a couple of weeks ago, you had that 6-year-old girl whose family was killed in a strike. She was the only one left. And then the paramedics showed up. They killed the paramedics and the 6-year-old girl. At some point, either you're doing this on purpose, or you were the most incompetent military on planet Earth. Like that those are the only 2 options. And I think I know which one it is. Like, that's just kind of how I'm leaning on this.
Well, it's not even. So there was another report that came out today. So there's so much. This story has so much in it, and we're saving the segment about what Iran's involvement here for our next video. So stay tuned later this week for that. But another story came out today from the 972 magazine, which is an independent journalist organization operating out of Israel and Palestine. And it's about how they had several, I think it was 6 sources who were Israeli intelligence officers who anonymously came forward to speak out because they saw what was happening. They're using this statistical AI model to determine their targets. And what is happening by doing this is Israel basically said they were using this model before in the conflict. And they used to say, hey, there has to be a human overseeing all of the decisions made from this. And what these Israeli intelligence officers are coming forward and saying is, not only did they get rid of that requirement, the only oversight on these targets, according to these whistleblowers that have come forward, is that they check to see if the person they're targeting is a man. And they listen to the phone calls they recorded from them. If it sounds like a dude, they're dead. And not only that, but they are killing them purposefully when they are at home, because they have a higher likelihood of actually hitting the target. Now, of course, by doing that, you are essentially condemning their family and children to death. And they have increased the amount of acceptable casualties to 15 people at times for low-level militants, and 100 people, over 100 people for high-level senior targets. And that is the reason why you're seeing so many more civilians and women and children being killed, and aid workers and everything, is because they're just having the AI tell them where to shoot, and they're shooting, and there's no oversight. And so, yeah, it seems obvious to us, like, oh yeah, obviously we see the Red Cross, we see the humanitarian aid logo on top of the car. Why didn't they see that and just not drop the bomb? And it's because they're not the ones that, like, there's an AI making these decisions, and that is what is happening. And they know that this AI has a 10% fuck up rate. They know that 10% of the time the AI is just going to be wrong by their estimates, and they're hitting that button anyway. And it is one of the most damning things. Like this whole crockpot is about to boil over, because the more this stuff that comes out and gets made public, and the more that, like, you have Joe Biden even today, like I know we crap on Joe Biden all the time, and the way he's handled this has been absolutely atrocious. But he made the most damning statements I've heard him make so far today. The statement he released yesterday was kind of another nothing burger. But in this one, the statement he made today, he said, nope, that's not it. I need a better organization of my quotes, TJ.
Same.
Yeah, here it goes. He said that President Biden called for an immediate ceasefire. And he said that future U.S. policy will be determined by our assessment of Israel's immediate action. So that is about as damning, about as close to a president calling for conditional aid to Israel that we've ever heard in our lifetimes. And it would be pretty big if he sticks to that. Well, that remains to be seen, but I do think the tides are turning here.
Mm-hmm.
I said a lot there. I'm sorry for just info dumping. There's just so much. There's so much with this story.
No, there is. And I have a lot to say too. So Gigi, if you want to hop in, I got a lot written down here, but you want to go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think it's super problematic that they're using AI, especially with such little human like supervision over it. And just like, it comes off as reckless, like completely reckless, and not at all caring about who's targeted and why. And that's a common theme we see with like Netanyahu and his decisions, and just sheer power, and like unchecked, like, so that's kind of my thought on that with the AI thing, just how little power we sort of have over it at this point, and how like using that for something so insane, like so sinister, is reckless.
Yeah. I wanted to add on to something John said about how Biden's pushed for a ceasefire, because that was part of the statement that he issued today, and he is, but it's I don't know.
It's not good enough. He should have called for. He should be saying right now, end it, goodbye. But
I don't feel comfortable with the language, because what he said was the United States will continue to do all we can to deliver humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians in Gaza through all available means. I will continue to press Israel to do more to facilitate that aid, and we are pushing hard for an immediate ceasefire as part of a hostage deal. I have a team in Cairo working on this right now. So what the hostage deal is Gaza surrenders, the Israelis that they have hostage, but Israel doesn't. Like that's the hostage deal that they have. It's like, okay, that's not a deal right there. You're clearly siding with one over the other. And with the AI thing, so I want to pull up Mio Martinez here. Pretty callous way of waging war. Martinez is an individual with whom I'm well acquainted. We were in the military together, and he'll know this, that it's insane to me that Israel is doing this. We'll let Agent Smith decide who gets bombed. We'll just let a machine do this, because that is not how it works. And so say all you want about the flaws of the United States military, that is not how it works. If you want to, launch a missile attack, it goes through your tactical assistant, your tactical director. It goes up to your battle captain. Then it goes up to to the battalion level. Then it goes up to a DAFCO, which is like big army level. You have to get so many clears and go aheads before you do something like that, and they're just doing it. Yeah, the machine says do it, so it does it. Like that's wild that shit happens. And there was an incident back in 1988, I believe, and the United States Navy had a ship out in the Red Sea, I think, and they accidentally shot down an Iranian passenger plane, like full of civilians. Like the Navy just blew it out of the sky. It killed like 250 people. And as you can imagine, the Iranians were not too happy about this, with the fact that happened. And this was 88, and Reagan was still president at the time, but his brain was cottage cheese at this point, And so
at that point, when did it stop?
Right, yeah, years before that. So he couldn't be bothered to make a statement on this, and so Vice President at the time, George Bush Sr., was speaking about it, and they asked him, hey, do you think we owe the Iranians apology for our Navy destroying a commercial airline? And his exact words were, I will never apologize for the United States of America. So he said it out loud in front of everybody. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, it's easy for us to throw stones on this, but Israel is like worse than we've ever done. And it's just really, really sad to see.
And speaking of accidentally hitting an important Iranian target, Israel also did that this week. They hit an Israeli consulate in Damascus, and we'll be talking about that on tomorrow's episode. So if you want to hear about that, well, it gets even wilder. So make sure to like and subscribe, and listen to me right now tell you to like and subscribe again.
We want to hit some of these comments here. I would ignore those, but in religious lines, but the fact that American Christians weren't outraged about Jesus' birthplace was targeted just shows that they care more about skin color than belief. So actually, all three of us grew up religious, so we can talk about this in depth. That the reason that, for those of you who don't know, the reason that you have American evangelical Christians are just like rock hard about this shit is that they've been taught from the day they could walk that the end times are just around the corner, and that every time there's a conflict, hell, not even a conflict in the Middle East, just any major conflict anywhere, they all run around saying, these are the end times. These are the last days. This is Jesus is coming any day now. And the Battle of Armageddon takes place in the Holy Land, and it's going to be bloodshed. All the Jews are going to die, except 144,000 of them that are saved. And like the red heifer will be sacrificed. You have the abomination of desecration, and they're just the Antichrist will rise. Like whenever they see this stuff, they think, oh, this is good. This is a signal that the rapture is going to come and everything's going to be taken care of. And it's actually one of the primary reasons that President Bush, George W. Bush, was so, gung ho about the Iraq war. He met with the Prime Minister of France, Jacques Chirac. And Jacques Chirac said, look, man, I'm looking at what you're presenting for me, and I don't think this is a good idea. You're not convincing me. And he looked this man straight in the eye and said, no, it's really important we do this because I believe the demons of Gog and Magog are on the move and we need to stop them because that's like a biblical prophecy. Like, they take this shit really seriously and they don't care how many people have to die to fulfill this, this exigent and greedy desire for the destruction of planet Earth. And it's nothing to fuck around with, but it explains why this clearly immoral shit's going on and a lot of people support it.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%
unrelated, but
agree.
Jacques Chirac, all time world leader name, one of the best ever. Like Jacques Chirac, like I'll follow that guy. I have no idea what his politics are, but I'll follow him to the gates of hell. Jacques Chirac.
And we got
Diggy, did you have something to add there on the
Oh, gosh.
religiosity
I could
of
go on for a long time about that. Honestly, like it's really just they want the stars to align a certain way because they want the end of the world. They want it, and it's bonkers, obviously, but it's what we're up against in terms of like critical thought, in terms of like empathy for human beings in the here and now. Like that's just not on the radar for like evangelical Christians whatsoever. It's all about the end times and certain things need to happen, in Israel and this and that and the other thing. Like, so they will just mindlessly support and they'll mindlessly just, this is what needs to happen.
In fact, it's kind of their fault that we're in this predicament to begin with, because if those of you who are deep into biblical eschatology, you'll know that one thing that they say a lot is the catalyst for the end times was the creation of the state of Israel, because in the book of Revelation, they reference Israel as being a country, and Israel was not a country, and so they're like, oh my God, we can make Israel a country and that will bring about the end times. Like it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy right there. And I wanted to hit this comment right here. I saw, where did I see it? Because it doesn't really fit into either of our topics, but I wanted to sandwich it in somehow. What kind of financial voting support would Biden lose if he went straight up ceasefire? I love this question. And so I saw like just this afternoon a Pew poll about this very thing, because we talk about it all the time, is that, Biden's base for the most part is very strong in their opinions that, we need to do a ceasefire. And we always said there had to be, so like Biden, look, he's not stupid, like, and neither of his handlers, like they can do math just like we can. There has to be some reason for it. And I think that this might, shed some light on this.
Look how you just have it ready.
What?
You just have it ready.
Yeah, I prepped it before we start. So we're just learning how to do this shit. So it's gonna be some bumps along the way. But so this is a Pew poll that was I think it came out March 24th, something like that. It's pretty recent. But so they sampled a couple thousand Americans, and it's like views on why they're fighting, regardless of whether they approve of how Israel is fighting the war. Most United States most U.S. Jews, 89% see Israel's reasons for going to war against Hamas as valid. Now, that really jumped out at me because so Jewish Americans vote, they are the second highest voting demographic for the Democratic Party. The highest is Black Americans at like 85%, and then right after them is Jewish Americans at like 77%. So if you're a Democrat and you're looking at this and you say 90% of a major voting bloc is supporting this war, that might give you pause. I'm not saying that's the moral or correct thing to do, but I can see how that could factor in there. And then it says that 18% of Muslims see Israel's reasons valid, which, no surprise there. But there are far fewer of the Muslim population than there are. So we talk about, like the Muslim population in Michigan and everything, but it pales in comparison to the Jewish population in the United States. And so if they're making a calculated, risk just on the numbers, that might be why. I don't know if that's what it is, but that's one reason. Have you guys heard anything about that?
Yeah, no, it's actually interesting. I mean, you're. I mean, these numbers are exactly correct. But it's actually interesting thought experiment here, because while Jewish people are currently outnumbering Muslim people, that's not going to be the case for long. I mean, one of the reasons that Jews often find themselves in pots of boiling water is because they are always a minority group, because they are a non-evangelizing religion. And so when you have a non-evangelizing religion, you don't grow the population other than through the traditional means that we all love and enjoy. But the Muslims, they're going to continue to come here through immigration, because it's not like Jews are going to be, we have all of the Jews, we have the highest Jewish population in the entire world. It's not like they're going to be coming from other areas like Muslims are, and they're not going to be evangelizing their religion and spreading it in the way that Muslims are. And so, these numbers are true now, but in a generation, I would actually not be surprised if Muslims were a much larger portion of the American voting public. And that could really, I mean, I guess it won't bite Democrats in the ass, because, they're still better than the Republicans on this issue.
Well,
but
and you're not worried about Biden. You're not worried about 20. You're worried about.
Oh, that's true. You're barely worried about 18 months. Yeah,
yeah. So
you're lucky if you make it through every morning. Biden wakes up and goes, "I did it."
Yeah. So if you're looking at it for the upcoming election, the numbers very clearly skew one way. What do you think about this, Gigi?
I was thinking if this is enough of an issue for them to be I'm definitely not voting blue, or I'm definitely not going to it's how much it's going to impact the Biden losing or whatever. I'm curious if that would be enough of an issue where they'd be and what would they do? Would they go vote red?
No, I think they do. I think they do.
Wondering what would happen if there was a call for a ceasefire. How serious would it be, and would it be enough for them to then, not vote or vote different, or what?
If you are so ideologically entrenched in supporting Israel, you clearly have no problem supporting fascism. And so, if the choices are not Israel versus fascism, well, that's basically what the choice is right now. So I don't know. Obviously, on an individual level, you're going to have people who won't vote for Trump, but I don't know how much I could count on anyone who is that steadfastly pro-Israel to be well, we can't vote for Trump. I don't know.
Well, I think that, I mean, if you're, because the Jewish Americans are staunchly liberal, and so and I guess it would depend if that's a single issue to trump everything else. And I don't know if it would be, because I mean, everything else about the Republican Party is absolutely repulsive. I would think they'd be more in the stay home group. I don't know.
They might be in the stay home group. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking.
But that's still a problem.
It's still a problem. Yeah, it doesn't help Biden. But this next chart interests me even more, where it was talking about Americans are divided, and how many and many are uncertain whether Biden is striking the right balance in the Israel-Hamas war. So 22% think that he's favoring the Israelis too much. 21% says he's striking the right balance. He's Joe Biden's knocking it out of the park. Everything's going swimmingly here. And then 16% say that he's favoring the Palestinians. So closer than I would have expected, these two numbers, honestly. Mm-hmm. Oh shit. Wow. But what's really important, and this is why which is what I've been saying for a long time, I don't know. This will hurt Biden, but I don't know how badly it's going to hurt him. Is that 40% are not sure, because what I've been saying about this for a long time is that I thought if it ends, before the summer, that people will forget about it because they forget about everything. And second, a lot of people just don't care. I mean, because we end up we have this everyone's like this, is that we have this tendency to think that everyone is thinking like we are, like, oh my God, there's a genocide going on. But a lot of people just don't care. People almost never vote on foreign policy shit. They vote on domestic shit. And 40% of the population is not sure. Bro, if you're not sure right now, you just don't give a fuck. You just don't. You don't care at all. And that is a massive chunk of the population. So combining those two factors, that, Biden calling for, like, he has called for the ceasefire, but it's like a soft ceasefire. It's a temporary ceasefire in which Hamas or the Palestinians give up, their POWs, but the Israelis don't have to. It's all in the Israelis' favor. That could lose you a bigger voting block than not doing anything. And the fact that a lot of Americans don't really seem to care. I can see it makes more sense to me why they've been acting this way. Like, now that I see these numbers,
it is very telling that 16% of the country thinks that he's favoring Palestinians too much. In what way? Like, I don't even know. Like, because he's sending aid. Like what? Well, what is he doing to help Palestinians? Like, he hasn't done anything to help Palestinians besides sending aid. Like, what does that even mean?
It's like we mentioned a lot of times. It's like 60 years of propaganda on this. I remember when Obama was president, I had conservatives I knew who were saying that, well, Obama is anti-Israel. And they said this like days after Obama approved a package for like $30 billion of aid to Israel. It's like, what are you talking about? He's anti-Israel. It's like, you can't be pro-Israel enough. And so, oh my God, you're dropping expired food onto the heads of Palestinian folks. Looks like you hate Israel. It's like, that's what I think.
Anti-Semitic fuck.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's absurd.
That 40% is privileged.
well, yeah, privilege.
They can just whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
it's privilege and apathy. I just people just don't. Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much because this consumes us all the time. But it's just like there's so many people who couldn't tell you the basics about what's going on, in Israel and Palestine right now.
I think a lot of people will just like hear what their family members say, and they're like, oh, well, this family member thinks this family, they're really like, everyone's really like heated and like divided. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's what a lot of people do, is they won't like, engage at all. And so they'll just be like, that's why maybe like abortion issues are more of like a thing, because it directly affects them, like you said, like the whole foreign policies, foreign issues. It just doesn't affect like the day-to-day person that they'd be like, they're like, I know people are fighting about it, but I don't know. And,
doesn't affect me. I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it comes down to, is how does it affect me and myself and I? And it's sad, but it's how it is.
It's where we live in.
Yeah.
Speaking of ways that it could affect me, myself, and I, an escalation has happened in the Israeli Gaza conflict. And this isn't the Israeli-Gaza conflict. It really isn't an escalation. It's just an escalation in Israel, because Israel had an airstrike on Damascus. They have neither confirmed nor denied that the airstrike was theirs, but the Pentagon has gone on and said, yeah, no, it came from Israel, which I will say is already pretty staunchly opposed to what U.S. policy has been so far. But when Iran criticized America, we apparently directly communicated with them that they had no idea, because when Israel airstruck Damascus, they hit a consulate in Damascus from Iran and killed like generals, like very high-ranking Iranian military officials, which is about as big of a no-no in diplomatic relations as you can possibly imagine. Striking a consulate and killing high-ranking generals, like, it is about as much of a no-no as you can possibly make. Because remember, under international law, that's sovereign territory. Like that is Iranian land. That is legally speaking the same thing as launching an airstrike on Iran. Now, actually speaking, is it? No, because Iran isn't going to do anything because they don't want America to come into a regional conflict. And if they did something, America might. But what a lot of people are speculating is that Israel did this on purpose in order to bring the U.S. into a regional conflict with Iran, because they're watching the U.S. separate from them, and this would be a last kind of like when you decide to have an open relationship to save the relationship, but of course it isn't going to work. It's like, let's do this thing that is absolutely horrible to make us more committed to each other, or when people have kids to save the marriage.
God, I hate that. I hate when that happens.
That might have been the more appropriate one there, but I mean, I think that that's clearly what happened here. But when you guys are reading about what happened with the consulate in Iran, what were your thoughts? I'll throw to you first, TJ.
So yeah, when I saw this, my immediate thought was, remember when Trump did this? Remember when Trump did this exact same thing in like January of 2020? I still remember because I was still in the Army back then. And for those of you who don't remember, Donald Trump sent a drone strike to kill a Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani, while he was like at an Iraqi airport. And he went to the Iraqi airport to meet with Iraqi officials to discuss plans on how to fight ISIS. Like I mean, it's like wasn't even shit. And so just did a drone strike and killed him. And that was a pretty nervous week, because I was like, this could start a major war right here. Like it's amazing that it didn't, honestly, that the Iranians just kind of like they launched a couple missiles into like some warehouses we had as retaliation, but to save face, but they didn't raise a big stink about it. And it's so weird that I guess the Israelis saw this and they said, well, look, apparently in the United States, they've decided if you're president of the United States, you have complete reign to kill anyone on planet Earth anytime you want and suffer no repercussions for it. I mean, not only do we do it with people that we've designated as terrorists, or even like our own citizens. Like, what was that guy's name? There was that guy's name. He defected the United. Say what?
That Obama killed?
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but Richard something. He was an American citizen, and he defected, and he went to the Middle East, and we drone struck the guy, and yeah, no problem. You can just execute an American citizen, no problem at all.
I'm not God. Abdulrahman Anwar al-Awlaki. Anwar al-Awlaki is the name that I remember.
That's not the guy I was thinking of, but I didn't know al-Awlaki was American citizen. I didn't know that. Damn, but maybe it's more than I thought. But John, like what you said, like this is about as bad as it could possibly get, and it's something, by the way, we would never stand for. First, we would never, ever in a billion years accept this premise that the United States and Israel does, that hey, this is a bad guy in a country that is not ours, and we're just gonna go send a machine to kill him. Like, imagine if there was I don't know, a serial killer or a Klansman or whatever hiding out in Arizona, and Mexico just sent a drone into Arizona, and we would be losing our shit, and rightfully so. Like, that's not cool, but we do it all the time. Like, it's a bit of a banality. And then you can raise it even higher. Like, it wasn't, you might be able to make some sort of argument that, well, this guy is bad news. Like, he's an international terrorist, but this was like an actual government official. This would be like, Pakistan sending a missile into Mike Pompeo's house and blowing it to pieces. Like that's essentially what's going on here. And there's like, yeah, that's just this old hat. It's what we do. And it is you're right. It is a way for the Israelis to try to goad us into fighting Iran, and which very cute guys. Like, we've been wanting to fight Iran for a long time. Like, trust me, this has been on. If we thought we could win, we would have already done it. And like attacking Iran has been on the list since the war on terror started. The only reason it hasn't happened is because it's a war we could not win. Like, Iran is not Iraq. It is a lot. It's like 3 times bigger. It's like, imagine like if you're going to war with California and it had the terrain of Afghanistan. Like, it's the worst of both worlds, and it's a fight we can't win. So we just label them as the world's biggest sponsor of terrorism, and we talk about all the human rights violations. And yes, there are legion of human rights violations in Iran, but we don't give a fuck about that because we are best buddies with the Saudis, who are they're just as totalitarian and theocratic as the Iranians are, but they sell us oil, and so we like them. They're okay, and the Israelis too. We're buddies with them. Like, talk about human rights violations, and so we don't really give a shit about that. But it is funny that they're trying to say that's not going to work because we would have done it if we thought. Well, what do you think, Gigi?
I definitely think you guys are both correct. I think that he's sort of poking a bear, so to speak, in order to try and start something there. I do, with the long history with Iran and Israel and their conflict that has been going on since about 1979 or so. Like, I think that it is a way to maybe try and get the United States to be in conflict. I know that Iran views, the U.S. and Israel as sort of like basically Satan. Like, there's a mentality there of like, there's already a lot of like pent up rage and conflict there. So I do think that, I don't know. I think that they are trying to start something, and yeah, I don't think it's great.
It is interesting because when we talk about Israel and their actions, it's like it's really hard to throw stones in our glass house.
Yeah,
and like obviously we like throw these stones because we're like, fuck the U.S. for everything they've done. But like, as like your average common American, it's really hard to acknowledge wrongdoing by Israel without acknowledging your own complicity. And like, what Israel did here is right again. What we did it to Iran. And then Israel just was like, well, if they can do it, we can do it, because all of the same reasons that allowed them to do it are going to allow us to do it. And they did it. And Iran, if I'm Iran, I feel like you have to and again, I'm not even like I'm the most pacifist dove person in the world, but like now it's a pattern. like you got to wave a big stick around at some point, or it could just keep happening. And like, I don't really know what you do if you're Iran. Like, you're just in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, it's weird too, because it sounds like we're doing like Iranian apologia, like we're big fans of Iran.
I'm not a big fan. I don't even know Iranian politics. I'm just like, if I'm in Model UN and they throw me in charge of Iran, what do I do in this situation? I'm like, I don't know. It's a lose-lose.
Yeah.
Lose in every facet, and there's no good answers.
Yeah, it would be very difficult to like show up and like, the Iranian people ain't no bitch, coming up there and just trying to say that we're taking this shit over. You can't just keep bombing us and for no reason. And the situation between because like, once again, this is like, I don't blame people for this because we're not taught this or whatever. But John's heard this speech before, so I apologize. I'm about to give it again about U.S. Iranian relations, because we are fed this diet that, we are the good guys and Iran are the bad guys. And they call us the great Satan because they're evil. They wake up every morning and they think about, ways to be evil, and they hate us for no reason. And that's not, surprisingly, that's not what happened. And
valid reasons.
There's valid. So the story that John and I've said many times goes back to, everyone acts like the tensions between the United States and the Iranians happened in 1979. That's when that started. It started way before that. It started in 1953. back in 1950, Iran elected as their president or prime minister. I can't remember what the title was. It was a guy named Mohammad Mossadegh, and at the time, the Iranians were essentially like a province, like they belonged to Great Britain, and they were. The Brits were extracting the oil from Iran and through British Petroleum, and just taking the profits for themselves. And so when the Iranians elected Mossadegh, Mossadegh had the crazy idea that, hey, how about instead of giving all this money to this tiny island 10,000 miles away, the money from the oil industry should go to the Iranian people, and we could nationalize it and build our nation up. And the Brits didn't like that. They didn't think that was very cash money of them. And so, but this was 1953, and it was shortly after World War II, for those of you who aren't history buffs. And Britain wasn't in a position to use a lot of force. They were, still cleaning up the rubble off their streets and everything and paying off debts. So they went running to Uncle Sam, and they told Eisenhower that, hey, you guys need to help us out here. The Iranians aren't playing ball because we want to steal all of their resources and all their money. And by the way, the guy they elected, he said he wanted to nationalize the oil industry. That sounds a hell of a lot like communism to me. And so they're like, oh my God, we can't let this happen. And so we sent in, people to help overthrow Mossadegh, which is exactly what happened. And they installed the Shah of Iran, who was in power from basically a puppet dictator, for Western powers. And so he was in power for the next, 25 years or so. And the Iranian people revolted. You had the revolution of 1979. And that's when Americans started paying attention, because they had the hostages and everything. But, the fact that we got Ayatollah Khomeini and the Islamic rule of the government is a direct result of the fact that we were meddling with the Iranians in the first place. And yeah, so yeah, sure, it's not a defense of the government of Iran, but we always seem to just easily dismiss that our role in all this. And also, sorry for going on this, but whenever we had the nuclear deal, but that Obama did back in, 2014 or whatever, in which he said that, okay, so we are going to make a deal with the Iranians. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. So we're going to have this deal where we have inspectors come and check, your stuff out, make sure everything's clear. And Trump and the Republicans got mad because Obama gave them, hundreds of millions of dollars, which is not what happened, because back in 1979, we froze hundreds of millions of dollars of Iranian assets. And because until you guys play ball, you don't get the money back. Well, they played ball in 2014. We just gave them their money back, but Republicans acted like we were just handing out taxpayer dollars to these folks. And then Trump comes in office and overturns it. So now you're not going to have any deal with the Iranians. Why would they make another one with you when they know you just overthrow it in the first place? So yeah, it's shitty, and you keep bombing the folks like that. Like there's no good result that's going to come from all this. It's just like what John said. There's only so much this you can put up with.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with that. Really.
Nothing will happen of significance. I'm fairly confident in saying that. Like, there's legitimate reason for concern, but again, Iran's between a rock. The path of least resistance is the one where they don't fight back. Because you can just keep taking pot shots for forever, but you poke the bear. We won't win the war, but it's gonna hurt. We're bad at winning wars of aggression, but we're quite good at making them hurt for you. Cool. Let's now talk to a lighter subject and talk about Hillary Clinton and how much she pisses me the fuck off.
Oh boy, it's so great. So great. All right.
TJ, you want to introduce this
one? This is a good one. This is fun. So all right. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but Hillary Clinton has spoken publicly about her thoughts concerning the choice Americans are facing with the upcoming election. And a lot of people are dissatisfied with their options. They say, well, Donald Trump is this insane, dangerous, man-child who knows like the damage that he could cause with 4 more years in office. Biden is old, ineffectual, weak, and he doesn't really seem to push any of the policies that we want. And we're not really happy about this. And she has some advice for those of you who feel this way. She went on, I think it was Jimmy Fallon the other day, and had this to say. Let's see what's going on.
What do you say to voters who are upset that those are the 2 choices?
Get over yourself. Those are the 2 choices.
Yeah, I love that.
Right? And
good.
It's kind of like one is old and effective and compassionate, has a heart, and really cares about people. And one is old and has been charged with 91 felonies.
Yeah, okay. Okay, interesting.
All right, so there you have it. Have you tried getting over yourself? Have you tried, just humbling yourself and prostrating your body to the powers that be? And what I find funniest about that clip is not necessarily the content that she said, which is, bad enough in itself, but was the crowd reaction. Because when she said, get over yourself, there was a pregnant pause there.
Yes.
I think she thought the crowd would be like, yeah, but it was like, oh, wait, what the fuck? And then they're like, to be polite, like a second and a half later, they started applauding. But no, the crowd, that did not go over well. And this is like, without even going into like the actual, intricacies of the politics or whatever, I am amazed at how bad of a politician Hillary Clinton is. I am
It's
just
incredible.
amazed. Like, she's been around politics her entire life, and I can't imagine anyone else doing that. That was a politician. Like, I can see pundits doing it or something like that, but someone who actually ran for office and won and kept seeking higher and higher office to just shit on people and say, fuck you, this is what we have, suck it up and vote. Because there's a million. Now, listen, even if that's your sentiment, even if you're and a lot of people do think this, and I don't begrudge them for their thought. It's like, look, I understand that you don't want to vote for something, then you don't want to take an active part in supporting a genocide or something. If that's your red line, that's cool. However, I think that, to do as much harm reduction as possible, you should vote in this way. You could say that. You could just say that. If she would have just said, listen, I understand how you feel, and, it's up to us to do a better job to try to convey our message, to get more voters to come to our side to vote for our candidate. Because at the end of the day, this is a democracy, and it means the power of the people, not the power of the politicians. Like, no one is owed your vote. And it's crazy she didn't learn that lesson in 2016, because she kind of act like that's the way Democrats act. Is like, oh yeah, well, what are you gonna do? Stay home? you're gonna stay home and not vote for me? Yeah. That's
exactly what happened.
Say what, John?
That's exactly what happened. Like, it is exactly what happened in 2016. I'm about to get on my soapbox here, because I was a staunch Hillary Clinton supporter in 2016. I volunteered for her campaign. I was a, pretty darn liberal person back in 2016. I was a year out of high school, first year of college. And it was devastating to watch myself leave that position and look back and just see like how much I was drinking the Kool-Aid. Because like, I remember the deplorable. Everyone remembers the deplorables comment, but I remember at the time I didn't understand why people were so upset about the deplorables comment. And since I grew up and understood, like, yeah, it's fucking insane for the leader of a country to call half the fucking country that she wants to lead deplorable. It's just such a terrible mindset, and it's the exact bad mindset. And being on the left now and being the recipient of these attacks, it hurts, because even though she didn't call me a deplorable back then, like it's the same mentality. It's the same exact philosophy that caused her to call Republicans deplorable, that is causing her to tell progressives, shut the fuck up and deal with it. It's just that if you're not with me, you're against me. And it's the entire blue MAGA cult mindset. And the most infuriating part about it is at least the fucking Republicans own their shit. At least they don't think they're like morally above me. They just like don't give a shit about morality. Like they own their shit. And what really just pisses me off is the smugness. I'm on my high horse. You can get the fuck out of here. Stop worrying about this. It's like, you're the reason for this. You didn't do anything to solve this problem during all of your time in office, even though there's an obvious answer in ranked choice voting that would significantly contribute to helping this problem that Americans have been having my entire life with the two-party system. This has been a consistent issue year in, year out, and every year we're told, oh, well, don't do it during this election year. If you're getting upset about this, then you're hurting the Democrats. And it's like, well, eventually you got to do something. You got to do something to fix the problem. And if you don't do that and tell me to get over it, like what? How does anyone look at that and go, yeah, that's my leader. That's who I want to follow into battle. Like it sickens me. And it really, and I know it's like disproportional. I know all of the fucking like, oh well, there's probably fucking biases because she's a woman, and like there definitely are.
Yeah, of course.
God damn, does she not even like fucking play? Like she plays into it. Like it's almost like she wants that reaction to her, because if I was trying to be a smug, elitist, liberal asshole, I would do exactly everything she does. And it is really, it's just bad politics. It's just bad. It doesn't work. It lost her the easiest winnable election of all time, and Democrats haven't really learned much from it. Nikki, what are your thoughts? Are you as pissed as I am? Please don't.
Yes.
I really hope you're not a Hillary Clinton fan. I really hope. I'm realizing I set you up for like a bad time.
You're fine. I mean, yes, there is the whole thing, like she's a woman and like, we're picking apart what she's saying and whatever. If a man said it, it'd be different and blah, blah, blah. There's that. But also it's like, she's also said repeatedly that Palestinians who have stood in the way of any kind of permanent peace. Like that's her stance for Gaza and the Palestinians. Like her entire the narrative that she has been pushing for so long is now like nobody's accepting it anymore, and she does not. I don't think she's super like into that. I think she's pretty mad and pretty like this is very passive aggressive. And I also thought that like the dichotomy between like Trump and Biden and like the caricature she created of Biden was just like this soft teddy bear guy, as opposed to like Trump, which
he's compassionate.
Yeah,
he's
so
compassionate. I also, as a compassionate man,
thinking about her statements that
genociders
she's made on Palestine before, and the fact that it's being challenged now and a pretty big, and like they're trying so hard to suppress the narrative of free Palestine. Like they're really trying hard, and I think at this point it's just not the move. It's just not. It's a sinking ship. So that's how I view it. And she's just like, let's go, let's sink.
So I got stuff for let's address stuff both of you said. So with John, I'll start. John, what are you talking about? Calling she said like half of Trump supporters is just a basket of deplorables. I didn't really have as big of a problem with that. Honestly, I really didn't, because it's true. And those people aren't going to vote for you anyway. And the reason I point that out is because Republicans do this shit all the time. I honestly wish because like what she's doing in this interview is she's attacking liberals and the left, which you never want to do. But attacking Republicans, I am all for. I think we need to do it a hell of a lot more. I think that Democrats are way too kid gloves when it comes to it, because watch, like, you remember, like, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer would get on TV, and they've been saying this ever since Trump got elected. It's like, I wish we could go back to a more genteel, more more honest and more decent Republican Party before Trump came. No, they were insane before Trump too. They weren't, walking around the Capitol in Benjamin Franklin hats. They weren't doing that shit, but I mean, they were still just as crazy when it came to the policies they supported. And Republicans, on the other hand, what can you think of any Republican politician that says, man, I wish we could go back to the days of 2004 when there were good, decent Democrats out there? No, they never say that shit. Like, for my entire life, they have called Democrats, communists in the bad way, fascist
in the bad way.
Yeah, like communists in the way that most Americans think when they hear communists. They think a guy in a beret that's going to order a death squad on your family. Nancy Pelosi is a communist, bullshit like that, or like pedophiles, and they spread like the vicious fucking lie that the Democrats are supporting policies where children can get their genitals removed, like, which you can't do anywhere in the United States, but they say this shit all the time. Trump is always talking about the radical left Democrats, the Marxist left that are trying to ruin the nuclear family. They pull no punches when it comes to insulting anyone that's, one step to the left of Milton Friedman. And on the other hand, what do the Democrats do? You have Joe Biden up there just carefully crafting statements like, they've evolved over the last few years, where he'd be like, well, we really have to watch out for the ultra MAGA folks, or the MAGA Republicans. Like, no, they're just Republicans, man. Like, just say Republicans. Like, they're afraid to criticize the Republican Party at all. And it's like, no, do it. Just say what you mean, because not only is it true, but it will help mobilize the base. And like, this is something that John and I talk about all the time, and that I'm a big fan. I lean way more to the side of mobilization than persuasion. I am not going to waste a lot of time trying to convince someone who is a dyed-in-the-wool Republican to change their mind. Like, that could happen, but it'll probably take years, if it ever does at all. I'm interested in mobilizing people who already agree with me, and, getting them to say, hey, I know that this sucks, and I know you're disillusioned, but if enough of us band together, we can actually get something done and get to work. So yeah, I didn't really have too much problem with the deplorables, because it's at least attacking the other side. But this one is like, you're just it's friendly fire, which is another funny term, friendly fire. It's not friendly at all. But
wait, TJ, I want to address that. But totally keep that note, because I want to hear what else you had to say. But I want to make a distinction here, because I think I agree with you that Democrats are too toothless and they need to attack Republicans more. But I think that the target of that attack needs to be Republican. Oh, thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Casey.
Casey just subbed. She's now our favorite viewer. If you want to be our favorite viewer, like and subscribe and leave a comment telling us you did so. I think that the problem with the deplorable comment is that she wasn't attacking Republican politicians and policymakers. She was attacking Republicans. She was attacking an 18-year-old who grew up in a Republican family, a staunch Christian conservative family, who, when he's 27, might go progressive, but like right now he's just kind of a product of his upbringing, and you're calling him deplorable. Like that's wrong. Like, to me, it's morally and fundamentally wrong to do that. Especially if you're someone who's saying, I want to be your representative. I want to fight for you, because that is what the president is doing. He or she should fight for every single American equally, not just Republicans or not just Democrats. And when she said that, and again, at the time I didn't quite get this, but like now I see it, how it's the same philosophy causes her to attack the left. Like, she doesn't care. It doesn't matter whether they're a MAGA Republican or they're a leftist progressive. As long as they're against her camp, they're an enemy. And when you start seeing the world that way, as opposed to seeing the world as a bunch of people who can be your friends, and you start seeing the world as a bunch of people who are your enemy, that's when you become a war hawk like Hillary Clinton and, you know, slaughter thousands of people in the Middle East. It's all the same philosophy to me. And that's the decision I would disagree with you on. Is I agree they should be way more aggressive at attacking Republican politicians, but attacking just Republican American voters, I don't think is philosophically sound. Or good politics, or it's very bad politics. I
don't know. I don't like the shifting of blame to say that the problem with the Republican Party is the Republican politicians. It's not. It's the Republican voters. They get exactly what they asked for. Like the reason that Donald Trump is in office is because the voters like Donald Trump.
But
they're
also told what to ask for by Fox News. By it's not an individual. Like, if you break it down to an individual level and say these individual people are deplorable, I think that's wrong. In the same way, I would say that ACAB is wrong. Not all cops are bastards. Policing is a system of bastards, but individual cops can be very good people. And I think it's the same way when you look at Republicans and, you know, MAGA or whatever. I don't know what the fuck this individual story is and how he got to the point that they are. So I'm not going to call them deplorable just because I know they voted for Donald Trump. Like, who am I to do that? I'm a much more optimistic person.
Well, no, so I agree. Because I say this too. I say this too, that our goal should be to be vicious towards, you know, systems, but kind towards people. Like, I do understand that. Mm-hmm. But when I say voters, I'm referring to the bloc. And so I don't feel that quite that bad about it. I just don't, because but it's like with the cop thing, like the fact that you're a good person and you happen to be a police officer doesn't really matter. I'm still going to say that, you know, the system, but I get what you're saying, that you don't want to go out of your way to insult. Like for example, if I was talking to a person one-on-one, I'm a lot less likely to say you're a piece of garbage than I am if I was addressing, you know, the actual goals of the group in total. Gigi, what do you think about this? Like, me and John just talked for 10 minutes there.
It's funny, Gigi, we rarely disagree. This is probably our longest.
It's true, yeah.
So I personally was still a brainwashed Christian during that time. So, like,
oh wow,
my whole mentality during the time didn't have a whole lot going on. But once I sort of saw the way that like Trump support, like the Trump thing started happening. I think this is a story for a lot of people. A lot of people have the same story where it's like, you know, you see your family members get so sucked into this Trump thing. Like, I was not very interested in Trump. Like, he was really misogynistic, like, and I, you know, had a lot of internalized misogyny myself during that time. And I was still like, damn, like, this guy, I don't like him. But so it was very eye-opening to see so many people double down on Trump. And so it's hard because there are good-hearted people who are like in their own strange way and misguided way, they're trying to do like something good, but they're so ill-informed and have all these issues and internalized misogyny and, like, you know, stuff like that. It's a hot mess, really. So yeah, I do agree with, like, attacking the system, but I feel like so many are so identified with that system that they wrap their identity in it, and it's so hard to detangle all of that and to be like, your beliefs are awful, you know, and you're like, it's a process. You can hold both, though. You can hold for people, like, you know, that they are trying to do something good in their own crazy way, but they're also, like, causing a lot of harm that they don't actually see, or they can't even acknowledge. Like, it can't enter their brains.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're disconnected from what they're doing. it's just what you did. It's just how you voted. That's what you did. And
Yeah.
turn off their
And
brain, turn off their,
That's
So-
why I do think it's a waste of time, because that's where John and I would definitely agree on this, to assess, because a lot of times people ask, like, do you think Republicans or conservatives are like evil? Like, are these people individually evil, or like, are they trying to do the right thing and they're just misguided? I don't care. I don't like. I'm not in the business of trying to judge the internal moral character of a person. I who am I to say? I have no idea. I can't read their minds, but I can, objectively, measure the consequences of their actions. And that's
Yeah.
which I guess I would agree with. That would be the better way to go, to say that, listen, calling you a deplorable, maybe that, because this is a funny thing. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But then again, I'm not trying to convince them in this scenario, but I would say, but if you were trying to win someone over, telling them you're a bad person doesn't change it. It's kind of like what happens when people tell you that you shouldn't vote for Biden. And if you do, or no, I'm sorry, that they're not going to vote for Biden because of the genocide and everything. And they say, oh, well, I guess you're a bad person. That's not going to work. Like, because in everyone's mind, they are doing the right thing. So the fact that you think it's wrong, who gives a shit? Like,
I hadn't considered that I might be a bad person. I really hadn't given much thought to it. But now that you pointed out, I agree with you.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all. And so, like, you can there's a vanishingly small amount of the population who you can, like, walk through it and say, okay, it's like how Republicans balk at, when you say that they're racists or they're homophobes or whatever. Like, I don't got a racist bone in my body. Or it's like, I'm not a homophobe. I'm not afraid of gay people and shit like that. It's like, look, okay, fine. Like, because their idea of a racist is someone who attends Klan meetings. Anything below that is not racist to them. And so you break down, hey, listen, this policy that you're supporting has a disproportionately high effect on people in minority groups. It hurts them in this way, and this way. So look, call it racist or not, like, I don't care what you call it, but the end result is going to harm this particular group of people. That's the problem. And so, like, that usually doesn't work either, because they lack empathy in a lot of ways. But it's a more effective way of getting the message across. But I forgot my second point about Hillary Clinton here, but I was getting to. But
I was waiting
about the poor communication skills, because, like, I've never seen a bigger juxtaposition of good communication skills and bad communication skills than Hillary and Bill Clinton. Because look, like, objectively, Bill Clinton definitely a worse person than Hillary Clinton. Like, as bad as Hillary Clinton is, Bill Clinton is 5 times worse. But Bill Clinton knows how to talk to people. Like, he knows how to go in a room, and he knows how to schmooze with all these folks, and he has people coming up to him like they like him, and he has a personality and charisma, and it never rubbed off on Hillary Clinton. Like, she just I know, it's like she's like in desperate need of a speech coach or something to try to, like, get people on her side. I can't think of anyone else. Like, well, maybe a couple other people I can think who are bad. Ted Cruz is incredibly bad. Like, man, but he might be worse than Hillary Clinton. But also, it's the solipsism of Hillary Clinton's campaign. Because like, we've been at many times that Hillary Clinton shouldn't have been the nominee in 2016. It should have been Joe Biden. If it was Joe Biden, he would have won in 2016. I think most people can kind of agree on that. And but it was her turn. It was her coronation. Like, it was her turn to run for president. She was owed the presidency. And Donald Trump did a great turn of phrase that I remember when I watched. I was like, God damn, that was good. I hate to give Trump props. When you remember Hillary Clinton's, like, shirts and hats, they all said, "I'm with her," and Donald Trump flipped that completely on its side and said, she says, like, her campaign is "I'm with her." The way I'm saying, "I'm with you." I'm like, God damn, that's a lot better. that's a lot better. That's just rhetorically, it's a lot better and emotional. And then
but it's a good like philosophical point too. That was the Hillary Clinton campaign. It was, "I'm with her. I want the first woman." Like, that was basically the entire thing. She's like, "I'm not Donald Trump, and I'm a woman," and that was basically the entire campaign.
I compare that to Obama, to when Obama ran for president in 2007, 2008. And because I mean, his name was Barack Hussein Obama, and he was a black guy, an unknown, a guy out of nowhere. And I watched this like a hawk when Obama was running. And not one time did he ever say, you should vote for me because I'll be the first black president. He never said it. Like, it never came out of his mouth because he didn't need to tell you that. And he didn't be like, well, hey, won't you feel bad not voting? Politically, it was the right move. Hillary Clinton didn't do that. Like, she leaned all into, the historicity of her campaign, which you don't, once again, you're making it about you, and you shouldn't be doing that. You should be making it about everybody else. But also, John, what you mentioned is that she's been complaining ever since she lost. And look, yeah, I get it. You're mad that you lost, but come on, how much sympathy do you want here? Oh, you didn't get to be president of the United States? Oh, poor you.
You're single-handedly responsible for Donald Trump presidency. Yeah, well, it's like I say this all the time, TJ. If the Eagles fucking lost to the worst team in the league and somehow in some way stop them from winning the Super Bowl by doing that, I would say fire the coach, fire everyone. It would be a fucking bloodbath. But for some reason, people are like, oh, fucking Hillary, I'm so sorry those leftists didn't vote for you and cost you the election. How dare they? It's like, shit, the buck stops with her. It was I'm with her. That was the whole fucking thing. Like how can you not blame her for not winning? Like that she was so dumb too. Oh my God.
And people lose elections. It happens. It literally happens every election. Someone loses. Like, I'm sorry, the deal going into this. I don't know. What do you think, Gigi? Like, are we being too hard on Secretary Clinton?
No, I don't think so. But I do have a question. What do you think if someone else said what she said? Like if Bill Clinton said what she said, or if Obama said what she said, do you think it would change at all in terms of how it's perceived, I guess?
Obama.
No, because people do say this a lot. Like people say it a lot. Are you talking like the cultural response?
Oh yeah, are we talking about the foul comment or the deplorable comment, or just in general?
Deplorable comment.
Oh, the deplorable comment.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I didn't think the deplorable comment was that bad, so I'm not the wrong one.
Right. I'm just curious. It'd be an interesting thing to think about.
Donald Trump can say because he's an asshole.
Right.
Like being an asshole is part of his shtick.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary, the problem with Hillary Clinton is that she is an asshole, but she's supposed to be a good guy, and so she doesn't really play that role in a way that is serviceable to anyone but her camp.
I think it would, because I think a direct parallel would be, I don't know if you guys remember this. You guys are a lot younger than me, so I don't remember this. But the old head coming out here. But when Obama said that he called Republicans bitter clingers, that they were, bitterly clinging to their guns and Bible, that was a very similar reaction where it was during the Romney, when he ran against Romney. And I think that's a direct comparison. We're like, who the fuck does this, this skinny elite snob think he is talking to us like we're a bunch of, backwoods hayseeds that have Bibles and guns? That doesn't describe us at all. But I mean, yeah, so I think it would, because it's the dismissive nature of it, although I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
So.
I think that
go ahead.
I was just
thinking it too, because she built this such a like you said, this very moral persona, and so
yeah, can you imagine if one of a Donald Trump who says those kind of things, if he were to lay into Biden for saying something that was off color, he just wouldn't do it because it doesn't make any sense for him to do that. Whereas Hillary lays into people for saying things off color all the time, and yet she does it constantly and is constantly dismissive of people. And that's what rubs you the wrong way. It's like the uncanny valley effect where if it's close enough to what you expect it to be, but then it's off a little bit, it's much more, you have a much more visceral reaction to it than when it's oh, Donald Trump, he's just a fucking asshole. He's not, assholes are gonna be assholes. What can you expect?
The Republicans have the the opposite thing is that they whine about, there's no slight too small that you can level towards the Republicans. Yeah, for all the bad things, like Donald Trump has never said a nice thing about someone on the left in, the last 8 years, at once at all. He goes out of his way to be as, acerbic as possible. And then Joe Biden gave a speech in which he said that the January 6 people that stormed the Capitol, and he said that they were a group of ultra MAGA semi-fascists, and Donald Trump lost his mind. Like the whole speech, like, can you believe he's referring to 50% of the pop, because there's like 50% of the country is not Republicans, but it's like he referred to a very specific group of people, and he didn't even have the balls to call them fascists. He said semi-fascist, and they still whined. It's like they live in this perpetual state of victimhood, which is really funny because they can't get enough of telling black people, quit playing a victim, when that's all that they do all day long. So yeah, I just think that Republicans, they love to pretend that they're this, downtrodden minority that they just can't catch. Hell, they're doing it with Trump. Like, how many times have you heard over the last couple of years that there's a two-tier justice system and it's unfair against Donald Trump? Like, even in the most absurd scenario possible, they still try to make themselves look like the little guy. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good shit.
One thing I wanted to say about Hillary Clinton, but didn't want to put it into that, was she is someone who, she was a progressive in like her 20s and 30s, and then just never progressed. Like she just stopped, and she became more and more liberal over time because the world advanced, and she didn't. And I see that so often with especially older California, New York liberals, who are they have this smugness to them as if they're the progressive activists they once were in their 20s, but they haven't fucking done their homework in 30 years and have not learned. And this is things that she hasn't learned. She has not learned why people hate her. I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say before you mentioned this, yeah, I see that a lot in politics. That you look up like what a lot of politicians were saying, 30, 40 years ago, like, oh my God, they were on point. But I don't know if it's necessarily like a California, New York, like a coastal elite thing. I think it's just the fact that you're in Congress and you're in power type of thing. Well,
for Hillary specifically, I can buy that. But it's an archetype of person is kind of what I'm
saying. Because I reference this a lot with whenever people ever tell you guys, I'm sure, hey, you guys should run for office or something like that. And like the system isn't built to sustain someone who how many Bernie Sanders can you think of? A guy who was like arguing for trans equality in 1984 and, and sticking with all that. That's not common. It's pretty difficult to do that. And he had to do it as an independent, like not as a Democrat. Like he had to actually win as an independent, which is difficult enough. But once you get there, like once you become a politician with any pull whatsoever, what's your number one job? Your number one job is to get reelected. That's it. Like let's be real. Like everything else is a distant second. And so you have to do things to appease people who will help you get elected. And those people are not super progressive. They're not. So like, if I was in the Senate tomorrow morning, in a couple years, I'd be like the rest of the senators. There's no reason for me to think that I'm different in any way. I'd either be that way or I wouldn't be in office. And so I think it's just the nature of the beast because of the way, our campaign finance laws work, that there's no other option than to have someone turn out like this, except on, some weird falling star occasion where it just happens out of nowhere.
That's why you just got to go straight to the presidency, like Donald Trump.
Straight to the president.
just enlightened despot the shit out of it. Let's before we wrap here, let's do the plug that we totally forgot to do. That I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to start off. I'll throw to you, Gigi. Tell people where they can find you, and then TJ will wrap it up.
Okay, you can find me on all platforms.
Wait.
Oh, so John,
that was me telling you what was going to happen.
John will intro, and then he'll throw it to you, and then I'll finish. Sorry.
Got it.
All right, guys, and that is the wrap of our show. Thank you so much. If you happen to be watching that episode where I said that KC was our favorite viewer, well, you know how you can become our favorite viewer by liking, subscribing, commenting, just like she did. And make sure to join us live at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And if you want to find our very special guest today, I will let Gigi tell you where. Gigi, it's Gigi. People, my grandmother's name is Gigi. It's been I've been trying to not do it this whole time, but you know what, Gigi, take it away.
Thank you. And I'm honored to be, called by your grandma. That's fine. So yes, Gigi. You can find me on all platforms. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, if you're still on Facebook, I don't know. But on Instagram, I am Gigi Slaps, all one word. Snapchat too, actually. I'm actually on Snapchat a lot. So same one, Gigi Slaps. I've been doing Snapchat a little bit more because I like the one-on-one kind of like say hello to people, do snap streaks and that kind of thing. So that's my way to stay connected lately. So you can find me on those.
Thanks a lot, Gigi. We appreciate you coming on the show. Been a fantastic guest. For the rare listener that's older than me, you can find her on Facebook. Be sure to look her up. She'll be happy to friend you. But we enjoy you guys. Thanks for watching the show. We'll catch you next time. All right. Good shit. All right, we'll shut the stream here.